This is Why the Last Man podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Why the Last Man, episode 4, Karen and Benji.
You got any food?
That you can spare?
No, don't think I do. Sorry.
Is it just you, or you got 2 tents?
I'm with my sister. She's by the river.
Huh.
You served?
What?
Where'd you get the jacket?
Found it.
Oh.
You got a dog or something?
No, I've been trying to use it as a trap, but haven't had much luck with it. Definitely not enough to feed 2 extra mouths, so best of luck.
You know, no one has ever become poor by giving. That's Anne.
Frank, I know. Best of luck.
Welcome back, fellow survivors. This is the Why the Last Man podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're looking at episode 4, Karen and Benji, of the first season of Why the Last Man. I am one of your hosts, John.
I'm one of your other hosts, Derek.
And I'm Chris, asking, why isn't escapology just magic?
It's better than card tricks, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's the same thing, though. No.
No.
Walk away, walk away, walk away.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I was like, what is the difference? Card tricks, you know? But anyway.
Well, you gotta think Houdini's got a bigger reputation than, I can't even think of a person
Yeah,
in the street that does card
Mr.
tricks.
McCarty Tricker.
Well, there's the Victorian guy who, you know, held a massive goldfish bowl between his legs, as well. I can't remember the name of the magician, but he was kind of really renowned for doing it.
Well, I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, okay, yeah, that's true. But the other thing as well, this title of this episode, I kept thinking of Cher and Sonny for some reason. I just was expecting like Sam and Hero to be kind of folking their way with guitars through the countryside to get to Washington.
Karen and Benji.
Yeah.
I see.
Cher and Sonny. I don't know. I had folk.
I had no idea what this was about. I was like, Karen and Ben, what? Why? Who? It's just like, is it like a name of a song that I wasn't quite sure of? Yeah. Or that, and then it was like that. I was like, okay, fair enough. It's literally, you just, at some point they're just going to call one of the episodes because someone said the at midpoint.
It would have been really good if they'd called it Trapezoid, because I have to say that little interaction between Yorick and 355 I loved, where he was trying to get a sense of that, well, they were trying to know what her name was, and she was not giving it up at all. And, you know, you call me 355, and he goes, okay, call me Trapezoid. I must say, I liked that. That was a good line.
Really good stuff. Shall we get into the discussion about episode 4, guys?
Yes, I think we should. Let's get into our spoiler-filled discussion of episode 4, Karen and Benji, aka Cher and Sonny.
Derek, do you want to tell us who gave us what?
Absolutely, yes. Once again, the series is based on the comic book series by Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerrera. The showrunner for the show is Eliza Clark, and this episode was written by Denisa Lavina Grays. She was an actress on shows like New Amsterdam and Happy, and was also a staff writer on the show Manhunt Unabomber.
Oh, I remember her on Happy. Yeah, she was the IA person.
There you go, Chris. I know you were a watcher of Happy, so that's who
I was
Denisa
a watcher
has.
and a reader of Happy. It was a good comic book too.
Very good, yes. So Denisa has moved into the other side now, writing on this show. I know she has a number of credits on this series as well, which is pretty cool. Director of this episode was Destiny Ekagara. She is a British director, has worked on shows like Riviera and End of the Effing World. So has got lots of credits to her name, and has now moved over to the US working on Why the Last Man. Also apparently a very big fan of the comic books, really big fan of Why the Last Man, the comic books. So she definitely has a bit of an extra bit to her style, which we'll talk about as we discuss the episode. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for this episode?
Sure. After the downing of both helicopters, Yorick and Agent 355 travel by foot in search of a geneticist who can unravel the mystery of how he survived. The unlikely travel companions try to get to know each other as they encounter a changed society. Yorick starts to realize the capabilities of Agent 355 and the lengths she will go to enact his mother's orders. Agent 355, meanwhile, gets frustrated by Yorick's lack of self-awareness and privilege as he unwittingly puts the two of them into increasingly dangerous situations in the new world. After a huge argument following a close encounter with the law, both come to an arrangement. If Yorick agrees to go to the geneticist, then Agent 355 will help him find his estranged girlfriend, Beth. Meanwhile, Hero and Sam make their way to Washington, but Hero has no desire to find her mother and tries everything she can to sabotage their journey. They stumble across a former shelter for women that is clean, warm, and dead body free. Sam is uneasy and wants to move on quickly, but Hero delays. As they go looking for supplies, they meet Nora and her injured daughter. Hero helps to clean the wound, but Mackenzie needs antibiotics. That evening, the group are discovered by the current gun-toting, horse-riding owners of the shelter, who take an immediate dislike to Sam and threaten to kill them all. But Hero's EMT skills save them, as one of their own lies injured. As Hero attempts to treat the dying woman, the group's leader arrives, who shoots the woman and chastises her group for not welcoming these helpful new arrivals, even Sam. As they are led to a warehouse full of supplies, Nora quietly warns Hero not to disclose who her mother is to this group of dangerous women.
Excellent, John. It feels like this is moving us much more towards the central part of Why the Last Man, the story, which is much more of a road trip comic book series, isn't it? There's lots of travelling across and back the country many times. So it feels like we're much more on the road trip side of it now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that, it's moving it to that phase and the encounters that they will have on their journey. And we get a few of those, we get a sense of, this new world, I guess, a bit more that, certainly away from Washington, things maybe aren't quite as controlled, or if they are, it's very localized like we get at the marketplace. But ultimately, the big thing here is, Yorick having to disguise or hide, that he is a man. That is, one of the interesting elements here. I guess in this show, as opposed to the comics, there is, he can use the explanation that he is looking for testosterone because he is transgender.
Yeah.
Whereas in the comics, it is very much more, he will fake a female, sort of accent, I guess, not accent or, pitch to his voice, or, will just cover up, and so I guess would look like a fairly, hefty, broad-shouldered lady, I guess.
What I love in both the comics and the TV show now, because we've seen, as you mentioned, he does call out, I'm looking for testosterone. That's his way of trying to cover it up. And in the comics, he uses a female voice. What I love about both of those things is neither of them work. So in the comics, he constantly says, I can do a great female voice, and then tries it on anybody who's never met him before, and they're going, you're not a woman. So I like that it fails for him here as well.
Okay, guys, shall we get into our top 3 moments? Chris, do you want to kick us off on this journey into the unknown in an apocalyptic world?
Yeah, what was your big moment from the episode, Chris?
Sure. For me, the most interesting part of this episode was the overall marketplace that was formed, where they've landed. And it's this barter trade system that kind of flows up behind it. Because part of it, when I saw they were going to Mars, I was like, oh yeah, they're just going to use cash. Oh no, in the post-apocalyptic, everything's going to be barter and trade.
Yeah. Don't
be silly. And I was like, The more interesting piece was the formation of the wives of the sheriff and the police force, if you will.
Yeah.
Because it's good to see that there's still authority. The bad side is, and the more interesting piece was, straight away, they were corrupt. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. That's definitely it's a nice kind of statement about the world we live in, that even in the post-apocalyptic world where you would hope good men and good women rise to the occasion, no, they're still corrupt, and they still wantonly beat someone with nightstick, and they steal, and that's not good enough for them when we first see them. It's just so I found it an interesting statement.
Yeah, absolutely. And it follows on from last week as well, where we saw the wives and one of the daughters of the politician saying, you know, I should get their seat on in the government now because I was the one that got them to the position they were in anyway, so I should get that. And here we have police officers' wives effectively saying, well, we'll take up arms, we'll follow in our husband's footsteps effectively and take on these jobs, but we want to take anything that we want from the marketplace. And it's justifiable in a way. You know, if you're going to stand up and be the law of this new society, you of course want to get some compensation for that. But they could have gone, you know, make sure that we get a meal. But it is very clearly said by the shop worker in the market that they take whatever they want whenever they want it. So anything good that's available in the marketplace goes to them first, effectively.
It's like the protection money.
Yeah.
It's essentially a shakedown protection money. It's like, hey, it would be terrible if, you know, something bad was to happen to your fees. Hey, oh, we're going to break some legs. Hey. That was my best Jersey gangster impression.
But it is interesting, isn't it? Because it's kind of a bit like having gone through this pandemic. For me, these types of shows, like say, like Why the Last Man, but also say like Walking Dead, it kind of takes on a little, you know, it's obviously not quite that bad, but it takes on a different perspective because you kind of think, yeah, that there is a pessimistic view of it, and actually those elements come to rise where it's just very selfish about yourself. I will do this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's what we see here, is that those elements are very much in the society. And I've always kind of believed, and it was kind of, you know, it was nice to see the organization here. You know, people are always going to be in it for themselves in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
So it mirrors that, but at the same time, I still wonder why everything's just gone to pot as well. Like, it was like with Endgame, the start of Endgame, where, you know, I get it. Half the world has gone. And in this case, half the world has gone, you know, roughly that are men. But I feel that, you know, why would you remove money? I don't know. And, you know, but I guess maybe it's a different society. So their values are, you know, down with the capitalist system. So we'll do it with bartering, you know, here's a pig for, you know, a bit of, engine parts or something, or a generator. Exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, I guess I just can't really get my mind round how things would play out if it happened here. And I'm kind of constantly battling between being an optimist that, you know, society would find a way and you'd all come together, and just that it would disintegrate in a sense into different factions.
To become a realist.
Yeah, I guess. You know, and yeah, I guess this is the start of seeing how it would be, and I guess there's different types. You know, you've still got the president there trying to organize a wider society.
Yeah.
But as you move away now from that influence, then I guess there's pockets of factions developing.
Yeah.
But again, I wonder, well, why are TV stations off? You know, I know they're having a problem with power.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You know, I still
we did hear a radio station on air for a few seconds last episode.
Yes.
So there is some availability. We did see the former First Lady sitting in her room watching television. I don't know whether that was a box set she was watching or Netflix or something like that. Probably Hulu, actually, given that that's where the show airs. But that's probably still going. But regular TV stations and regular news stuff, I suppose. I think there's one element that may be missing in the show. And if you follow the social media accounts for Why the Last Man, they make it really evident. They have these placards that they had with the percentage of men that were in certain levels of society. So they had, 86% of all top level executives in the world are dead in one day. 92% of all pilots in the world are dead in one day. So by having those placards of all of the areas where men form the majority of the workforce, it really gives a sense of what would happen to the society, what's happening with the government here. And it's stuff that's up in the background. And I feel like you could either have an episode where they explain everything to you and throw it out there, and it'd be really boring. You wouldn't have any of the dramatic stuff that's in here. You wouldn't have any of the exciting action and violence that's going on with 355 and what's happening with Yorick. And it would explain what's going on in the society, but they're dropping things in the background that by the end of the season, you'll get a real picture of what's going on in the society. But they have mentioned that there are camps where people can go to get help. And when you go there, you get all the medicine has been relocated there. All the food's been relocated there. So there is that ability. But what you hear from Nora is the queues are days long to get into these camps. So people are starting to forage for themselves. When people are foraging for themselves, breaking into houses that have been left behind, well, why would you have money? Why would you run a shop?
And they're mugging. They're also,
exactly.
There's a huge criminal element, which we hear from Nora as well.
Yeah. So there is a society, but I don't think you're going to be able to go to your local shop and buy food for your weekly shopping.
No,
what is interesting was if you do follow Eliza Clark, the showrunner, on social media, she put up a really good thread on Twitter where they investigated exactly how the world would fall apart and how close we are to the brink of power shutting down and how quickly all the elements shut down. We're 70 days into this apocalypse on Why the Last Man. And the writers have studied exactly how American society particularly can fall apart quite quickly if things aren't maintained and managed the way that they would.
Yeah, that thread was really interesting because, and certainly, just in terms of, because society in terms of consumption is all about just in time, whether it's delivery of groceries, whether it is parts for cars on an assembly line, that it was, I think she mentioned that, if this did happen within 3 days, a grocery store or a supermarket would be out of fresh deliveries because it's all about just in time to reduce stock and all that. And I think that's where I guess that was really nice context for me just to understand how it's broken down. And as you say, it's the idea of, certain sectors being so dominated by the gender imbalance of having men so out of proportion in top levels or in certain skill sets and so on. And the reverse of that, I guess, would be true in a sense for certain other sectors and professions.
Yeah, absolutely. But I like that they dealt with it again dramatically in the last episode. We had that excellent speech last week from the president to the engineer that was in charge of the power station, where she'd effectively gone, well, I've lost everything, and is just sitting at home wallowing and is being encouraged to go back in. So there's also that to take into account. It's not like women have had an uprising and have taken over the world. It's that the world has stopped. All men are gone, and there are choices for people here. Either I sit at home and it's not my problem anymore, or I maybe get encouraged to go back in and keep things going. So
and there's the traumatic side of it as well that leads to the individual's response. Yeah, exactly.
So I think this will build out over the course of the season, but I did like this marketplace, Chris, as you say, this idea that there are people out there that have things and they're going to trade them with other people better things effectively. So it's set up really quickly and it's established here with this marketplace.
It was also just the establishment of the quote unquote evil in the world. In that, probably not evil, corruption, the dark side. Because so far we've yet to see, we've heard about the muggings, we've saw heroes' friends run off without them. We've heard about that, and we've, to a degree, seen the dark side of humanity. Like, we've seen people just being more selfish. We've yet to go to accept until close to the end of this episode, where there's a, essentially, I was going to say slightly euthanasia element. They're putting a dog down. Let's call it that. We're getting closer and closer to the dark, the dark side of an apocalypse.
Absolutely.
We start, and I think they're slowly just putting it in where we see, and it's actually, I'll just close on this. It's when Yorick goes under the market because he thinks he sees Beth.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about him and his Beth habit in a second. It's that the cops straight away like, what are you doing here? Why are you following us? And then straight for the nightstick.
Yeah,
and it's just like, Right, yeah, power corrupts absolutely. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, I think is the thing. And it's that kind of, okay, you're starting to sprinkle this back in again. You're starting to show that, yeah, not everyone's a nice person. And we know this about post-apocalyptic shows.
Yeah.
You're starting there. So it was good to see.
Yeah, and I do think this is really reflective of what we saw in the comic books. Like, you know, we spent so much time with Yarick. The story is about Yarick and 355 and their journey across the country. And that exposes how different communities have dealt with this apocalypse and dealt with this massive change in their world. So I like that it's been put this way and on the show specifically is how they're experiencing when they're moving through. And because it's a bigger cast, we're seeing Hero and Sam and the people they're dealing with. And we're also seeing Nora and her daughter and the people they're dealing with as well as they move through the society. So I think it's a really good way of taking the base of the comic book and turning it into this show to show how this universe works and this new world works. It's really cool. But yes, you did mention it, Yarick being attacked by the police officers. We get our massive fight sequence from 355. I must say, well done to the fight choreographers here, because it really feels like 355 is the only person trained fighting against this group of people with guns who think they'll be able to protect themselves with their measly guns versus 355. No chance. I just love how it's put together. She's easily able to take them all out. It makes her look even cooler than she has the last 3 episodes.
She definitely has skills on toast relative to, I guess, the women who have just taken up the mantle of being sheriffs and police officers based on their husbands' role previously and their level of training. So that was really good. I also like the fact that I guess she maybe even held back a bit because you know, I loved how the build up with 355 and Yorick in terms of his realization about 355's great plan in terms of getting rid of the 2 pilots. You know, and he this realization that, you know, just how trained she is, you know, and what she's been trained to do and how to think. I loved how that came out with when 355 says to him that, well, of course, they'll just be looking for 2 helicopters and the 2 missing dead pilots. They have kind of, you know, she has set it up so that they really just melt into the ether that, you know, he has never been anywhere. He is a ghost in that sense. And I thought that was like superb. And so just the realization, you know, the plan that she enacted without telling anyone and the rationale behind it for that singular objective to get him to a geneticist and, you know, to follow the orders of the president.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really good. And
absolutely.
I felt because, you know, they had those discussions, you know, she didn't go full on, gun toting in that scene.
Yeah.
She was trying to just hold back.
Yeah, knock them out and get away, basically. Yeah, I love that kind of little extra addendum to the plan that we hear this week. So last week we knew it was her that took out the pilots on the other helicopter. We knew that's what she'd done, and we knew it was because they were the only other people that knew about Yarick, right? This week she just adds on the fact that, oh no, they're not going to be looking for us. They're going to be looking for the 2 pilots who stole 2 helicopters.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Both helicopters are gone now. They'll be after each of the pilots. So a nice little extra thought there from 355, something that I didn't think about last week. Speaking of that, the opening of this episode, where we have 355 singing in a jazz club, effectively, which is a real dream sequence and a real interesting way of opening the show. This is definitely something, again, feels like something out of the comic books. We have issues of that comic that have stage plays going on at the start of the issue. It feels like suddenly you're back in the 1800s and people are speaking Shakespearean language, and then the panels kind of move backwards and you realize you're watching a stage play. So that's what it felt like this opening.
I thought it was more going to be like the Angel-esque musical episode.
Not 4 episodes in, but I think we might get a musical episode as the series goes on. I was wondering if it was the way it was shot and the way it cuts to 355 walking through the woods and there's a fire burning behind her. I was wondering, did they crash the second helicopter? And this was her waking up from after crashing the second helicopter. We know the first one crashed, and we see them taking pieces of the helicopter to the marketplace with them. But I wasn't sure whether it meant they'd crashed it on purpose, or whether it was an accidental crash, or whether they just landed it and were just taking pieces of the helicopter out, because we didn't see that in this episode. What do you guys think? Do you think it was an indication of that, or was it just a fever dream that 355's having?
Initially, I thought that they had been captured and drugged. This was a drug dream.
Right.
She was poisoned and she was fighting the poison or the drugs. And this is where we're going to wake up and find out that they had walked somewhere and Yog got captured and they both got captured. And now they're essentially sitting in a basement with kind of someone who's slowly carving slices off them.
Okay. Not yet, Chris.
Not yet. No, so I took it that, and then what I took it as was just that she has this more fever dream-esque part, and that they're gonna start hinting at her past of who 355 is, and it will be throughout these kind of crazy dreams. It's like,
yes, Chris, she used to be a jazz singer in her past.
well, no, she maybe had an undercover operation where she was a jazz singer.
Yeah.
Or she had an undercover operation where she was X or Y or Z. And these are all just kind of starting to meld together as she is now on her worst ever assignment. Look, babysitting, essentially.
Yeah,
a petulant child.
Exactly. Fair dues again to Ashley Romans. You know, we've said how competent she's been the first 3 episodes, and now she can also sing. Like, what else can she
sing
do?
and dance?
Beautifully shot scene, beautifully put together scene. But what else can Ashley Romans do? They're going to give her something else massive in the next episode.
I think on that moment, I didn't really see the fire, and to be honest,
it was just one scene
and
in
I
the
don't think
background.
she would crash it.
No.
I mean, she would intentionally down it and then strip the parts so it can't be used. I don't know how. You know, obviously she's got flying skills, so you could down it to make it look like it crashed or ran out of fuel or something. But I just kind of assumed that she was because at the end she was by the big cliff into the lake. I just assumed that she was sleepwalking because, I mean, through this episode, there's a few moments where she's kind of, you know, she's fiddling with her necklace around her neck and kind of just speaking to herself, whether that's going through the plan or, you know, sort of going through different scenarios in her head because of her training. And so I feel like she's very much in her head. So I just assumed that she sleepwalks, and this was one of the things, and she was dreaming whilst she was doing it. I mean, I actually loved how you went from the music and the dancing to how the real world sounds began to creep into it as she then kind of teetered on the edge as she woke up.
Yeah.
But that could also, maybe, I don't think it was so much like a trauma of the fact they've just crashed, but it could be as well. I don't know, but I'm not entirely sure it's important. I think the important thing is that she's stripped the essential parts that can mean that helicopter can be used, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it's the, it's the burnt earth policy that she's leaving behind that, you know, only they can use the resources to get to her objective.
Absolutely.
Nothing for, you know, the perceived or potential enemies that she is thinking about. But,
and it also gives the show a little bit of an extra sandbox to play in, though, is probably what I was thinking, when I was watching that moment when she's on the stage, singing a song, doing the dance. It means you're not going to have The Walking Dead, which is basically walk up and down a back road with the woods around you and have your villains shooting arrows at you every single episode because you don't have budget to do it, or you haven't laid that in that they can do something different. This is already 4 episodes in doing something really different.
Yeah, it's important to have that stylistic sandbox, as you say, for sure. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Chris, anything else on the marketplace?
No, that was very much it. Interesting to see where it goes. Where else we will see? Will we see a shop? Will we see a mall? Will we see? I don't know.
Or maybe an online marketplace, Chris. How about that?
Could be. Oh my god, Amazon. Yeah, it's an Amazon fulfillment center.
Do you know, I think that might be where they ended up at the end of the episode as an Amazon fulfillment center. But
Spoiler
we'll
alert.
get there.
Controversial.
We'll get there. John, do you want to take us on to your big point from the episode?
Yeah, it kind of leads on from the marketplace and effectively what happens to Yorick with the police there, and certainly just because again it's Yorick's decision making, but as I love how these two unlikely companions kind of forced together by the will of both Yorick's mother, but also, Agent 355's president. I love the whole, in a sense, trying to get to know one another. But as Chris said, 355 just really believing that she's been dumped with the worst babysitting ever.
Yep.
This is the kid that is, smashing stuff, doing everything to prevent the babysitter from sitting on the couch all night enjoying effectively the goodies that the parents have left for them. This kid, this Yorick doesn't sleep soundly. And his Beth obsession, why would he think that Beth would even be there?
Absolutely.
I mean, so he has no thought for, that there is someone else with him, trying to do, has a different aim and goal compared to his own. And, I loved how that built through here from, the campsite, the awkward, undressing in front of, Agent 355. I thought that was really good. As I said, the whole, the exchange of finding out what her name was and the, okay, call me Trapezoid. She doesn't want to be called a lady. It is Agent 355. That's what we are to call, Ashley Romans as this character. I love the idea, Yorick's just going, are you going to get sexy thoughts whilst he's undressing to distract you from the mission? And I just love Ashley Roman's sort of deadpan, kind of approach where it's like, that's unlikely, she says. But it's just the way it delivered. It really made me smile. That she has absolutely no interest in Yorick. He is a mission to her, certainly at this stage. I love her retorts to him. And of course, this is all building, from where he comes racing out of the woods, to chase the two women who are kind of trying to ransack and pillage their tents.
Yeah.
And, his reasoning is that he doesn't want another body count on his hands after realizing just quite how ruthless Agent 355 is.
Yeah.
But ultimately, she's on the other side going, they could have seen who you are, that you're a man.
Yeah.
She's trying to keep him as sort of in the shadows and away from the glaring light as much as possible. And I just loved how this kind of built to, the really big sort of bust up on the bridge. You can sense Agent 355's frustration, but equally Yorick's, like he said to his mum in the previous episode, my mission is to see Beth, whatever you want me to do. There is a right answer that I could say that is, yes, I will go to this geneticist. I will save, the male species, effectively. But I can't say that because I just want to find Beth. And, this really all sort of is at odds with Agent 355, and it clashes, there on the bridge after the marketplace, where, it is, simply you need to grow up and do as you're told. You are just have no idea that you are as privileged as you are. You've just kind of fallen from thing to thing without any need to understand that you have to pay your rent, that you have to be able to afford food for your table, like we've seen in the first few episodes. And this is just so at odds with Agent 355, who has trained, worked to get where she is, to be, effectively she's had the look of all the men dying to be, and the assignment where she's next to the president at the time. But, all this has been through her dedication to herself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she sees none of that in Yorick. And I love the tension that brings and just how that sort of pours out on the bridge after the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love those lines that she says to him where, she's saying, just by you being who you are, you walk into a room and you feel everybody has to listen to you. And now when you are the most important person on the planet, let alone the room, you couldn't care less. You're out here looking for your girlfriend. And once again, a reminder, Beth isn't his girlfriend. Beth walked out on him when he proposed to her, pretty much dumping him right there. So his whole search for the woman that he tried to marry is something that he really shouldn't be going after. There's so many more important things that he should be doing. And effectively, if he does find Beth, it's likely that she'll just go, oh, I thought you were dead, and didn't really bother me. We'd already broken up, basically, because you had nothing going on in your life. He is the least worthy person on this planet to be the last man. And I love how 355 has aimed that directly at him, kind of going, if I wish it could have been anybody else who understood how important this is. There's only one of him. He's risking his life trying to save 355 in the woods. And if he had died there, that's the end of every male on the planet, effectively. So I love that she's trying to at least get that into his thick skull as these episodes go on. And this particular scene in the bridge was fantastic, I thought.
Yeah, completely agree. I kind of started to discuss it in the end of the last episode. So Yorick goes on this huge journey in the comic books from being this self-centered, egotistical man to the man he becomes at the end. They're moving pretty briskly through some of this character development because he goes through a lot more stupidity before even the first outburst from 355. So they're shorthanding it a bit.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. I don't mind it because it's like in the comic books, it made sense. It was also the first time I've seen it, and comic books can, as a medium, go slightly slower because you've got all these issues and you can just build a character development. If you had Yorick every episode, it would become almost serialized. What is silly Yorick gonna do today to get himself in trouble? And 355 has to beat him out of the way, out of a situation.
Yeah.
That would become old very fast. If that was every episode, Yorick stumbling into something or getting caught, and each episode she has to pull him out of it. So, looking back on the episode, I'm like, okay, this is why they're moving so fast, because they have to move it. They have to grow. They can still get into hijinks and he can still kind of get caught, but as long as he's not purposely putting themselves in harm's way each episode, now it still will happen.
Absolutely.
Like I said, it will have to, because it's the serialized TV show, but he won't be as moronic about the kind of some of these post this bridge scene. I hope. I think it's just, if he goes off and sulks, and he really does sulk and is like a petulant child and you're like, oh, but by the end, you're like, okay, maybe there has been some growth in him.
Yes.
Because she has extended the magic olive branch.
Yeah.
The cards, the magic olive cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that's, like, I really loved the dynamic between these two characters. And I think Ashley Romans and Ben Schnetzer are just really, really good. I love the dynamic. And I think I love the resolution that kind of, let bygones be bygones, over the campfire with the card trick, even to the point where you think actually, and this is, the audience, well, at least for me, my assumption when he didn't get the correct card, I was like, oh, he's as bad as we thought from the first episode,
right.
With him trying to escape from the straitjacket. And, you can kind of see, Agent 355 almost going, oh my goodness, he can't even do this. That kind of atmosphere descended over her. You could really sense it. But actually he is good at the card tricks and goes into another one. But I like how, they resolve, and they have that apology. I think that's, she's going to get frustrated again. It's going to pour out again. But, I love that. And certainly because, for some reason on this, as they leave the bridge, having that argument with it all being quite tense between them, I just really enjoyed that scene, and the shot of the bike going down the road and the really tense music coming with it. Cause it, whether it's the tension of them going again into the unknown, what are they going to come across next?
Yep. Or
the tension that coupled with the fact that these two are at odds, they're not an effective team in that sense, that will increase the risk to them, as they go on this unknown journey. And I thought that was just really special. And, I've not said this, but I'm really enjoying the music in this show. I think its placement has been really, really good. It's like the Wall of the Remembrance and, a very intimate scene, but just with this tense music. And I'm loving the title track, as well. It really is kind of reminiscent of, the movie from, The Life of David Gale. I don't know. It's just with the sliding, kind of country vibe, but underneath that, the kind of more electronic, sort of modern element to it. I really, really am enjoying the music from this show and its placement within the actual episodes. I think it's really good.
It feels pretty sparse as well. It doesn't feel like every scene is is played with music underneath it. It feels like it's only used at certain moments throughout the episode as well. But yeah, that opening theme just has that great mournful line to it, and also this kind of Western kind of feel to it as well. So that's exactly the show, right? They're mourning the loss of everybody, and it also feels like a Western. The whole everything's gone Wild West effectively across the world. But I do feel that this is not going to be the last time that that Yorick makes one of those decisions that puts himself in danger, because there's 3 decisions that he makes in this episode, and he can justify each of them in his own mind, I suppose. So the first decision that he has is to try and clear off the women that are going up against 355. So he's running out of the woods. He's got his mask on. He's got his stick in his hand, and he chases them off like Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, trying to scare off the Sand People. Yeah. And nobody else get that? Yeah. I absolutely thought that's what would be in Yorick's mind, because he is a nerd, of course. So I thought that's what would be. He'd be picturing.
I can see that.
But that's his first choice, and then the second choice is going after someone who he thinks is Beth. Now, obviously, really stupid, different city. So he can justify it in his mind, though, because I saw Beth, and that would end the quest that we're on, and then I could go and off and do the other thing, because that's all he wants is just to find Beth. Really stupid. That's definitely a Yorick decision. His third decision that he was trying to make was he'd lost his mobile phone, and he wanted to go back and get his mobile phone, and that's when 355 loses it with him,
absolutely.
Because it's like, that is so self-serving. You do not need a mobile phone in this world. You can't just sit in a tent and watch videos of yourself and Beth from 5 years ago or whenever those videos were recorded. That's not your life now. You have to step up and be the last man on earth here. So he will be able to justify stepping in and trying to save 355 from something perceived threat that he thinks he could possibly save 355 from. He will do that again in the future. I don't think it's going to take this one speech from 355 to change his entire personality and his entire character. But it's a step in the right direction, I think. At least to say, right, I guess I could leave that mobile phone behind, and not spend the next, many years of the apocalypse trying to find a charger for my mobile phone that I can stare at these videos effectively. So at least it's one step towards a better human, because Yorick needs to improve as being a human. What excellent point, John.
Yeah, thank you. But Derek, what's your top moment from this episode?
Well, I want to talk about the other impossibly horrible human that we have in the episode, Hero, the saboteur. Wow, is she ungrateful as a human being? Sam's been trying to help her and help himself, of course. He needs to get to the government so that he can go to Jennifer Brown, the president, get some testosterone, get some help for the situation he's in. And he's also trying to help Hero overcome this stupid breakdown in the relationship that's been there between her and her mom. But wow, she just sabotages every single time. You know, they've spent a couple of weeks now crossing the country trying to get to Washington. They find a car which could get them there in a few hours, and overnight she sabotages the car so they can't drive there. And we'll have to take a few more weeks to get there. And is saying, I still can't get used to the idea that I'm going to be going to meet my mom because I said I never see her again. Like, get over it. The end of the world has happened. Your mother's in a position of power, and we need food. We need to be able to exist in this world. Get over it, hero. Not only does she do that to sabotage it, she also comes on to Sam. This is the platonic relationship between these two people. And Sam is put in the position where, Hero's coming on to him, you know, which will break the relationship effectively. Then they go out and find Nora and Nora's daughter in the supermarket that they go to. And instantly Hero's thinking of a way to make this work to her advantage. Of course, you will help a child that's in need, but it's, we'll take them back to our house and we'll make sure that we take care of them for a few days until she's all better and all well. And you can see it from Sam going, this is just another excuse to not move on and serve yourself and not deal with your issues. It's about you completely. And you can absolutely see why Yorick and Hero are brother and sister, or how they are brother and sister. It's all about them. Their whole world is entirely about what they need to do in their world, and they don't care about anybody else at all. So yes, Hero needs to move on. At least Hero saved everybody's life by using her ENT skills when the attackers come to try and take them all away. She uses the fact that she was an ENT to try and save the member there of the other faction that had been shot. Didn't really matter too much though, because the new leader comes in and shoots her instantly, putting her out of her misery effectively. Really interesting to see these types of factions in the world as well. As I mentioned earlier on, comic book is very much about going through towns and seeing how the society has changed, you know, and this is absolutely something you could go, I remember that in The Walking Dead. I remember people walking through towns and seeing these factions with new leaders. And because we've had 11 seasons of that show, it's very quick to look at these people and go, I guess this is the Negan of this universe, maybe. This is the big bad.
This is the prison town.
Yeah.
This is the X town. This is the...
Yeah, but I suppose the good thing about Why the Last Man is it's playing on a much bigger canvas than that. We have lots more going on in this world. The fact that we have 355 and Yorick in a completely different city to Hero and Sam means this is much bigger than that. So they don't have to have one big bad. The big bad is society has collapsed and there's so much else that people have to deal with. So I like that. I'm really intrigued by how brutal that the group of women carrying guns were. The fact that they were willing to just shoot them and move on effectively because they'd stayed in their house for a night. Like, that's really brutal. And how brutal they were towards Sam as well. The idea that a woman would want to be a man was the way they describe it. And they just instantly want to kill him. Again, we mentioned it last week, some of the criticisms leveled at Why the Last Man, that it's transphobic. And I always feel it's those characters in the comic books that when people read their lines to trans people or about trans people, that's why it seems transphobic. So I'm glad they still include people like that in this world on the TV show, that not everybody is accepting of trans people in the show. They shouldn't be, because that's the tension that Sam has to deal with every day. So I'm really glad they have that in the show. But I love that their leader, who she doesn't seem to have any particular better disposition towards Sam, but they were helpful and they should be treated as guests, which I like that kind of twist to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you'd expect that, as we've seen so many episodes of Walking Dead and so many villains on that, you expect that they've got this charter that they go by whatever their leader says. And when the leader arrives, they're just a more extreme version of the people that are working for them. Whereas here, what we see here is the leader's not extreme in comparison to them. She is their leader and they think they're following what she is saying, but she changes it. She's like, no, that's not what I would do. I would help these people out and then they can move on.
Yeah. I mean, it's not to say, you know, if we're at the end of this run of season 1, objectively she's maybe, you know, good or evil, but it's that whatever her starting point is, that she's, I would say she's reasonable and pragmatic, that you're helping us, we should help you, you're our guests, and also, well, has EMT skills. This is useful.
Yeah.
But she's also cold logical in the sense of, why are you wasting your time trying to heal one of their own on the table? Because it's clearly evident from what Hero says, the injured woman needed a trauma surgeon.
Yeah.
So why are you wasting your time? She puts her down effectively. There's that logical coldness to her as well, which, and I like that she chastises her group because, she says, well, and I guess she isn't predisposed towards Sam any better than the other members of her group, because she says, well, you invited them here, so don't complain,
exactly.
So as they're here now and they've helped us, we will treat them as guests and help them. But obviously, these women are, I guess, a significant danger here, as we see with Nora quietly warning Hero not to kind of disclose that her mum is president.
Yeah.
I mean, you wonder whether Hero actually is, again, quite happy. You're saying about sabotaging everything to sort of prevent or at least delay her and Sam getting to Washington. They're probably quite happy that they've just been taken in by these this group. But
yeah, because she even says to Sam when she's coming on to him, well, all we need to do is we can plant some vegetables in the back garden here, and we can we have a roof over our head. All we need is a fire and a home. And she's still delaying over and over again earlier on, and now being taken in by this group and have this warehouse full of food and full of goods at the end of the episode. Very likely that Hero's going to say, I'm staying.
She's so difficult to empathize and sympathize with as Hero, certainly for me at the moment, because even as you say, her EMTs kick in and she's helpful, and you're like going, that's the nugget of good in her, but then it more than likely it is to delay even further. It's the only bit here in this where I thought, is this where we get to see the real Hero? I feel that she is trying to tell Sam the reality of what happened with her boss in the back of the ambulance.
Oh yeah.
Just for, for a split moment, and then pulls back from it.
Right.
And then obviously, again, it goes pretty grim in leading him on, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just, she's such a tough character to like.
Yeah.
She really, really is. And you just know that this attitude is going to get people killed.
Well,
and it's going to be destructive for the people around her.
And sadly, it feels like it's going to be Sam as well, because if she decides to stay behind, then Sam has no more options. All options are closed to him. He can't walk to Washington and go, let me in, give me access to the testosterone, right? There's no real option. He's on his own then. And he did sacrifice everything to stay behind, to be with Hero and push her on this journey effectively. So yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting story between the two of them. But yeah, Hero needs to step up, just like her brother is starting to do.
Yeah, it's a weird one with Hero for me. They've yet to fully flesh out this character almost.
Oh yeah.
In that they have yet to explain in any way why she doesn't want to see her mum.
Yeah, there was this really petulant child again. Conversation where she says Jennifer criticized her. And the last time they were there, Jennifer criticized her and said something to her, and that's kind of it. And you're going, is that the reason you're not going to go and see your mom, or is just a general they didn't get on when they were younger, and you're kind of going, this is your mother and she's president.
Exactly.
Well,
if you turn with abuse, if things Jennifer was consistently abusive to her because it was just like, you should be a politician, you being a medic is nothing, blah blah. If you gave a very solid rationale, or even a solid rationale for Hero, which is like, mum never approved of me doing X, Y, and Z, and etc., 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 etc. Or if you give a nugget of something. But at the moment, you essentially have this person that is doing you just have this character doing despicable things because she doesn't want to see her mother.
Yeah.
That is literally the crux.
And that's the intrigue. I mean, I guess my theory on it could be something to do with the split between Jennifer and her husband. You know, we don't quite know what happened there and the reasons for it. But there's part of me, you know, in that conversation about what Jennifer said to Hero is, you know, she says, you're selfish, self-destructive, no regard for anyone else, and cruel. And I wonder if it is that Jennifer, as her mother, knows her daughter and is holding up that mirror to her in these conversations. And in terms of how Hero has chosen to do her, you know, her lifestyle effectively, whether there's some, you know, parental trauma that's the reason for it, and that she holds up that mirror, and that's what she's uncomfortable, is that because she is constantly, you know, I think trying to hide, you know, the reasons why she does that, because they're so unlikable. And I mean, even that conversation where she says, well, Jennifer said this, I can't even trust it because it's coming from Hero, because at this moment she is so duplicitous and self-centered. But that is exactly, you know, maybe in a slightly more destructive way, is like Yorick. So there's a consistency within that family that has resulted, however it is. And I guess this is, you know, in the same sense, you know, like you were saying before, Chris, you know, some of this story has been expedited, and that's a good thing. And there's other elements of the story where that, you know, that they're retaining that to maintain the idea of exploring these characters. And I think there's kind of an interesting balance on that. But
it is definitely, and comic book Hero, we don't really find out much about her character until we hear stuff in flashbacks quite a bit into the comics. I don't remember her being very well developed in the first couple of volumes. Like,
it's pretty far in. There's a whole arc with just her and what we find out about her.
Yeah. So we're not there. We're not there yet.
No, exactly.
There's definitely going to be some idea what's going on, but you're kind of, again, it's the same kind of thing with Yorick. It's like, Hero, just get over it. The world's ended. You know your mother's alive because you've heard her voice and you know where she is. You know that she's the president. It's your family. Go see her. That's kind of where I am with Hero right now. But you're right. Just one final point on this. That moment with Nora was really interesting because Nora's meeting Hero pretending that she has no idea who she is, gets told that they are Karen and Benji, that Sam and Hero are Karen and Benji. That's the title of the episode. And then by the end of the episode is going, I worked in the White House. I know exactly who you are. Do not tell these people that your mother is the president. You know, I love that with Nora, because again, Nora, a character that we're expecting to have quite major implications on the show. And I love that we have, in this great road trip episode, we have Sam and Hero going one direction to Washington, D.C., and we have Nora and her daughter coming from Washington, D.C., meeting in the middle of the road and being told, no, the best place you should be is back in Washington. And Nora going, but everything was totally messed up there. I can't go back there, you know. Love that, those moments in there.
Yeah, I suspect Nora is going to be a force to be reckoned with. The thing I'm really enjoying about this character is, you know, we hear that she's been mugged twice last week. You know, she got to her sister's, who was a doctor. Nothing there, sister gone, all cleared out. You know, she's spent 2 weeks on the road with her injured daughter, Mackenzie, and then probably she should have just gone to Washington, which was maybe, you know, a day down the road, and she could have gotten there by car. And, you know, her life has been threatened, by this group initially, and you just sense the creation of a really badass, hard force.
She is going to break.
What was the film? Was it Kurt Russell, where it was the man on the bridge with the white shirt, or Kirk Douglas?
Michael Douglas in Falling Down, Chris.
That was it. Yes, where it's basically you take this white collar you could, if someone wanted, they could say Fight Club, where it was Edward Norton. Kind of, you take a white collar person and you put them under enough circumstances, and they break and they become this Rambo-like character. I can see it.
Absolutely. I just want to point out, not that I'm hoping that her daughter is gone, or is gone from the show or anything like that, but just want to point out her daughter injured her leg 2 weeks ago, and they've been walking since that time. Yeah, so they had a little trip at the car that had some petrol, and then they've been walking on this broken leg. I don't think that, well, I'm no doctor, but I don't think that's going to be savable.
Well, I don't know, but her daughter is the thread, isn't it? You can sense that that if Mackenzie does pass away, then that is the moment that everything really changes beyond being able to go back. This is the thread to her previous life.
Yeah.
This, Mackenzie embodies the memories with her husband and her son as well. That's the link. But I mean, we do hear that, because of the wound dressing and the draining of the wound by Hero, that she saved her life. I have a feeling that it could even just be that even worse thing where, given that warehouse with the supplies, I guess there's antibiotics there.
That's true.
And the antibiotics will work, but given the threat or that danger that you get from this group of women, that it could be that she finds herself in a dangerous position that ultimately may mean that she doesn't survive in some way.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping they keep Mackenzie. Because I like that is Nora's.
It's her thread. It's her thread to humanity.
Yeah. I really like that. I think it gives Nora really just a really great character vibe for me, because she is on the edge, but she's still a mother with her child, and I think that's and you just know that there will be some kind of explosion if Mackenzie
it's the mother
dies.
bear, that's the cornered mother bear looking after the cub.
Yeah,
that you basically this is a ferocious animal that could destroy the world.
Potentially,
if pushed.
Exactly, because we saw a little bit in this episode when Sam and Hero first encounter Mackenzie. We see Nora try to sneak up behind them with the axe and threaten them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I love how quickly Sam disarmed her. It's like literally just grabs it out of her hand. So it's there. Either she gets pushed over the edge by the loss of Mackenzie, potentially. That's where I'm thinking is happening. Or she's going to be doing everything to protect Mackenzie and is going to be developing her skills by the people that she meets on the road over the years. A little bit Sarah Connor-like was kind of my feeling.
That would be awesome.
Season 2 will be Sarah Connor in Terminator 2 or something.
Yeah, because even just how she snaps at Sam in the shelter and then immediately backtrack, it's you can sense she's at that point of breaking, but she knows not to. So yeah, I think I'm really interested to see that.
Well done, Karen Ireland. Really good to see her on the show. A new character again for the show, and I'm really it's probably just how she's playing her that's making her so intriguing as well.
Yeah. Definitely. Great point there, Derek. I think on to notes. Anyone got any notes for this episode?
So I have one question. Who are these people? Are we going doomsday preppers? Are we going prisoners that have escaped a women's prison and taken over an Amazon warehouse? Answers on the back of a postcard, but what do you guys think? Very quickly. We're going to find out next episode, but it's nice to speculate very quickly.
Yes, given that we didn't even find out Missy Pyle's character name in this episode. Very difficult to predict exactly who they are, but I think they're comic book characters, or at least one of the groups that we meet early on in the comic books. I think the indication that the people, the women carrying the guns that are working for their leader, the fact they don't really know exactly her intentions, so she has to come back in and say, no, this is what you're supposed to do in these situations. I think they formed after the apocalypse. They're not a group of friends that have just gotten together.
Yes.
So I think that's where we are. They're a group of people who've gone, maybe they used to work in the Amazon warehouse and they kind of were formed together to take over this warehouse. We're saying Amazon warehouse. It's probably just Walmart or Sam's Club or something like that. But maybe they worked there and went, right, that's the place we need to go. Defend it with your lives. We've got everything we need to survive the apocalypse here, basically. So maybe it's just that, but I do think there's going to be a lot of learning from them in the future.
Yes.
So, Chris, any more notes from you?
No, nothing. Nothing from my side.
None from mine either. Derek, have you got anything?
I did mention the name of the actress, Missy Pyle, who we see at the end of the episode. You may recognise her.
I do.
Yeah, we've seen her in quite a few things over the years, but most noticeably one of the aliens from Galaxy Quest, one of the best movies ever made. So go see Galaxy Quest, you'll recognise her instantly from that. Also in a number of Tim Burton's movies. She was in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory as one of the parents in there, so you'll definitely recognise her, but looking a little different now in this episode. So I'm excited to see her join the show.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Let us get on to our defense. Chris, do you defend this episode of Why the Last Man, Karen and Benji?
I do. I like that they are increasing or speeding up the character arcs of Yorick to a degree. I am intrigued to see where they're going with Hero. Because, to be fair, your main protagonists, theoretically outside of the president, it is the Brown family, and you are actively making people dislike your two protagonists outside of the president.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's an interesting character study, I suppose is the way to put it. That you're going to see the development and growth or downfall of these characters.
Yeah. And
it's a tough sell. It's a tough exercise to do because you have to make people care about these people, but they're terrible people. They're terrible humans. So it's interesting. And I'm probably going too far to say Yorick is a terrible human. He just makes terrible decisions.
No, it wasn't that, Chris. I was having more of a question about, are you trying to make people care about them? I don't know. I think you just have two protagonists here, and neither of them particularly likable people, but that's the protagonist you have.
Could be, yeah, I suppose. Well, I can see that with Yorick. I just can't see that with Hero. I can see with Yorick is like, yes, he is literally it is the question everyone asks. Why is he the last man? Like, literally that choice. It was like, oh my god, like, that is the last man. As literally 355 says in this. It's you, my god. So anyway, I'm sorry, I really do defend. I'm still enjoying this. I thought that it lulled it for a few minutes during the middle of the episode, but it picked right back up again. So I not even worth discussing. Derek, let me know. What do you think of this episode?
I loved this episode. I said at the end of episode 3 that I'm so glad they ended it with that moment with 355 and Yorick going off on their road trip, effectively, or helicopter trip, because that is the fundamental of why I love the comic is these two people, particularly going 10 to 10 and seeing how the world has changed so much. I like that they've been able to now incorporate Hero on a road trip, them on their road trip, and Nora and her daughter on a road trip, so they can also experience this world and see those changes and see how the society is built. I love the changes that they're making overall, making this an ensemble piece rather than just something focused on getting Yorick from point A to point B, which kind of the comic did kind of feel like sometimes. And I love that we have that little drop of creativity in the opening scene where we have 355 doing her jazz number at the beginning. I thought it's really interesting to see that at the opening, because I did think it took me by a surprise. We did have a screener for this, which didn't have opening credits on it. I think it just opened immediately on that moment. I was going, have I turned on the right screener here? Is this the right episode? Oh no, that's definitely Ashley Roman's Grant. So that's exactly how I had that feeling when I was reading the comic sometimes. This feels completely out of left field. Oh, okay, grand, we're back to our story. Loving the performances on the show, loving the writing. Really looking forward to episode 5. How about yourself, John? What do you think of the episode?
Yeah, I really like this. I give it 4 dancing dreams out of 5.
Oh, nice.
I loved the development of Agent 355 and Yorick here in this. I'm kind of, maybe it's a bit like stabbing forks into your leg, but I mean, I'm so like fascinated by Hero. I mean, she's just kind of so awful. And just seeing that. And of course, you know, there are awful people, in the world. And I'm still kind of getting grips to the wider world in which this great character development is happening. And I guess that's my own sort of bridge to cross or river to ford. But I really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah. But it is good that you say that, and I think it's important for the showrunners to make sure that they are bringing everybody on board with it. Like it's not a bad criticism to say that you don't know everything about the world. I hope that they're going to do something about it in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm really intrigued with this this group of women that have come into the day-to-day now of Nora, Mackenzie and Hero and Sam. Really interesting to see, you know, how that develops. So yeah, I'm really, really enjoying the series so far, and I definitely really found this a great sort of character development episode for me. And of course, just, you know, the music is really fantastic. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, for Dancing Dreams, young and sweet, only 17 out of 5.
I was sure you were going to go for creepy animatronic cats.
No,
when I saw
really
that really
wasn't.
Weird animatronic cat in the house that Nora gives to her daughter. Like, actually, Nora looks much closer to throwing it out the window or stepping on the animatronic cat.
Yeah, exactly.
Until her daughter kind of says, "Give it to me." But yeah, that is the creepiest thing I've seen. Don't ever get me one of those.
Yeah. Well, no, I certainly won't. But let us get on to our fellow survivor feedback. First up, coming in by email over at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, we have Parthenia Locklear. She says, "Hello, fellow survivors. I wasn't going to watch another apocalyptic show until you announced that you all were going to review it. Wow. I binged the first 3 episodes while I was working today. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't even know where to start. The following comments may not be in chronological order, so bear with me. Yorick's proposal. Dude, read the room. That was so hard to stomach. This young lady clearly wants more in life. When he told his mother that he was engaged, I was confused. Is he in denial? His life of privilege is showing. No real goals or aspirations, and doesn't like to be told no. Not my favourite character. Also, I agree, can we get Ampersand a leash? Please do not let Ampersand running and causing trouble become a running theme. On Hero, I want her to develop into a character that I like, but I think she will annoy me as well. These 2 children have a lot to work through. When she went back to her friends, I thought they were all young boys, and perhaps this was a flashback scene. I was so confused that I rewatched the scene. Agent 355 is my favourite character. I knew she was going to take care of the 2 pilots. I kept wanting her to handle them, but when she gave them the medals, I thought, oh, okay, she bought their silence. That was lame. But then the helicopter scene just made my day. I don't know if I should be excited about it, but I was. I love a character that understands the assignment and gets the job done.
That is 355.
That certainly is. The official who woke up in Israel, she's going to be a problem. She is sharp. She instantly did the math that meant that I am the president. It gave me chills. Last but not least, let's recap. They placed Agent 355 in this wallpaper position because of a possible credible threat to the president. Fast forward, President Brown notices that one of the agents has stars tattooed behind her ear. I'm assuming this was important and will come back around, but why was it not mentioned? I almost forgot about it. Is this Secret Service agent a threat? Was her assignment derailed with the death of the president and all the men? The plot thickens. Lastly, I just wanted to say that I really enjoy listening to everyone else's feedback on all of your shows, especially the gentleman who reviews the music. I find that really cool. Okay, that's all until next episode. Keep surviving, Parthenia. Thanks so much, Parthenia. Yeah, I didn't even notice the star tattoos at all. So I'll need to look back at that. That's something that completely flew over my head, but good spot. Because yeah, maybe this is some kind of, sign that will become more important later on.
Yeah, maybe that was the credible threat. You're absolutely right, Bethany. Maybe they've layered that in, and that is still a threat because the attacker was possibly female. So maybe that's something that they can bring back later on in the series. I did say one of the things I've liked about the show already is that some little drop lines of dialogue in the first episode played out in the third episode. So I like that potentially that is something that we can follow up on in the future. That's kind of cool. Thanks, Bethany, for your comment about the feedback that we're getting. It's been really nice hearing everybody else's thoughts about the show. We always love hearing everybody's feedback. The gentleman who reviews the music, that's Matt Murdoch. He is a member of Double P Media, so you can hear him over there. He does a few podcasts over there. I think that he's on a bit of a break at the moment from podcasting, but he has submitted music review for Why the Last Man for their Why the Last Man podcast, which I think is called Zed, the podcast you listen to after Y, I think is the name of it, which I like. It's very, clever. Very smart. Clever. Yeah. But he has done his review of the music over there, so you won't hear it over here. But we absolutely love hearing from Matt and his thoughts on the music for the shows. I'd love hearing from you as well, Bithynia. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. Now over to the Facebook, where first up we have some feedback from Dr. Bob Phillips for episode 1, who went, "Cool. That was very full on. Even knowing it had to be coming. Our cast is an escapologist and his monkey, opposition leader, presidential aide, bomb-making assassin, and an accidental murderous paramedic. Intriguing." Yes, that is literally who your core cast is. That's the best way of putting them. And it's not just his monkey, that's Ampersand. Ampersand is his own character.
Well, he'll develop into his own character in the future. Thanks so much, Dr. Bob. Great to hear from you.
Thanks so much, Bob.
I'm glad you're enjoying the show or finding it intriguing, as you say. We have 3 voicemails from Steve Brown, who's doing his live Steving on each of the episodes. I think we'll intersperse them throughout the rest of the feedback. How do you think about that, guys?
Sounds good to me.
Sure.
Grand. Let's start with Steve's thoughts on episode 2 of Why the Last Man.
I'm so glad that they're doing this recap because it's been a while since I watched episode 1. Hey guys, it's Steve, and this is for Why the Last Man, episode 2. In animals, and we just jumped to day 8. Wow. This is an interesting conversation when you see our 355 and the new president, because she has no way to prove this to her, and she just kind of believes her. Wow, 60-something days or 80, I didn't get a good count on that, and society is crumbling, but there's still some organization, I guess, huh? There are some males still alive. I guess young, maybe puberty. I don't know. Okay, I know he loves the monkey, but dude, this is not a good idea going down to this subway. Oh, and the scene is super tense right now. Okay, that scene in the laundromat was pretty incredible. That this is our home line. Oh, it was great. But here, I just wanted it's so terrible. But I wanted her as she's leaving and she, thanks her for telling her and bringing her the driver's license. But I really wanted to say, did you take my baby's pacifier? Aw, the monkey came back. Okay, I'm confused. How does Yorick know Hero? And isn't Hero, that's the president's daughter, right? I'm confused here. Oh, okay, so they were transgender. That's why they didn't die. Okay. Yorick, meet 355. 355, meet Yorick. Okay, I looked up the cat. Okay, it's Yorick Brown. He's her son, right? I guess, but 355 didn't come back with the daughter yet, so. Okay, next episode in a couple minutes.
Excellent, Steve. Love hearing your confusion as you're going through the episode. Yes, Yorick and Hero and Jennifer, one small family unit with a big impact in the world, right?
Absolutely. Who would have thought that this family is thrust into the limelight, and the shadow.
And the shadows, exactly. Excellent, Steve. Love hearing your live Steves. Let's hear your thoughts about episode 3 before we move on to some feedback about episode 4.
Okay, here we go. Episode 3. Okay, that conversation there with 355 and the 2 soldiers was just great. She can keep a secret. She can keep it secret. But then we switched right to Yorick and the president being in bed together. It's a little weird. Whatever government building this is, they haven't actually cleared it all yet. And Yorick just met the former president's wife. That was a weird segue in that conversation because it almost sounded like Yorick is saying he's engaged to his sister. He was about to mansplain to her what ampersand meant. She's like, I know what an ampersand is. Very relevant dialogue here in this conversation. He calls the woman anti-vaxxer, anti-something. I didn't catch all of it. Wait, who is this and why didn't she come up in the conversation? Just because she was out of the country, I don't understand. Hopefully, you guys watched this multiple times, so you probably listened more carefully to the succession and who was female and where they were at. So maybe they did mention her. Dr. Mann, the universe is hilarious. Love it. Now, Yorick is very intuitive. He figured out who 355 is, really. Oh, okay, I see now. She's the one they were talking about was the crazy person. Gotcha. Her daughter is somewhere bleeding out as she's digging this shallow grave for her. Or for obviously their husbands and stuff. Oh, she's going to take him out in a pile of corpses. Ugh. Uh-oh. I don't know if Kimberly's starting to suspect or it's a good thing they got Yorick out of there. Oh, I just knew it, man. I knew she was going to kill those pilots. I knew it. I was hoping she wasn't going to, but of course she did. Episode 4.
Thanks so much, Steve, for your episode 3.
Hashtag live Steving.
Hashtag live Steving. Yes, that was what I was trying to grasp. There's certainly, love how 355 in that episode. I kind of think she's not quite so focused on being sort of like a, secret agent to kill everyone. Mm-hmm. And in the end, she's willing to take down a helicopter as well by the end of it. Probably had that in the plan all the way through. Mm-hmm. But just how she, does the distraction with the medals and the pilots are like lapping up getting that medal.
Encouraging and manipulation. Love it.
I just love Steve's live Steving. It's just hearing you go from, wait, what the, is basically where we all were throughout those episodes.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Steve. I know you'll be back in a second with your episode 4 live, Steve. But over on Facebook, Victor Von Doom says, looks like Hero found a big box store. She's doing better than in the comics so far. I'm all in for this series. Enjoying this very thought-provoking series. I used to think women should rule, but this series has me revising that notion. It seems humankind, regardless of gender, cannot move past the same old politics, prejudices, stigmas, etc. But we need to have hope. I just hope the Amazons don't arrive too soon. Interesting, Victor. I think I mentioned earlier on the thread that the showrunner put up on Twitter of the inspirations for where they find the world in the story. And one of the most interesting articles that you posted was just an article talking about, it's not just men that are behind all of the movements, all of the racist movements, all of the political movements that are out there, the prejudicial movements that are out there. It's not just men behind them. They do have women that are also supporting all of this stuff. And she specifically said that's a photograph of, I'm sorry to get political here, guys. This is a political show, but there is a photograph of 3 women holding a sign at a Trump rally going, women support Trump too. So, that image apparently was sitting in their office while they were writing the entire series. So this is what it's about. It's not the world's problems don't end when all men are wiped out. There are women that also have those exact same beliefs and those exact same ideas. So yes, I love that the show is exploring those notions.
I was about to make the joke. Women are the problem too.
There you go, Chris.
There you go. We also have some additional feedback from Joe Steimel, who says, I can't yet tell if I love or hate this show. I absolutely love the story and all the side characters. I dislike the main character, kind of. A lot. Either way, I'm in for the season. I don't think I truly know how I'll feel about it until the last episode. Agent 355 is my favourite character, but Nora is one that intrigues me the most. Very excited to see where her story leads. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I think a lot of people share your opinions and your feedback on this.
Mm-hmm. Everybody loves 355, and why wouldn't
Yes.
she? She's amazing.
Yeah, she's fabulous.
And as we said in these discussions of these podcasts, Nora has a really intriguing story, I think. And
I
wondering what's going to happen to her.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually think, you are supposed to dislike Hero.
Yeah.
She is not a character to like. And it's whether, can she even be redeemed? I think, the interesting thing is she became an EMT. And a paramedic effectively. And you kind of feel that suggests that somewhere locked deep inside of her is this element of helping and caring. And you see that in episode 4 in terms of helping out Mackenzie, but also at least trying her best despite it being, totally at odds with where the injured woman is. And, you see a change in how she, it's almost like that muscle memory of pass me the gauze. I need 4 strips like this and so on. You feel there's something there, but it's like, how has she become so, destructive to herself and the people that are, her companions or friends. And, so I guess, we are supposed to dislike, her. And I think, the same with Yorick, effectively, to some extent, in that it's how it progresses, and we'll see. But I'm totally with you. Nora just looks so damn interesting, and 355 is just phenomenal. Awesome. I love this character, and I love Ashley Roman's portrayal of her.
Absolutely. Not to throw in another reason to hate Hero or anything, but I know you say she's an EMT, and that should be something redeemable, especially after everything that we've gone through over the last few years. We totally love our healthcare workers. She's an EMT that spent her shift sleeping with her boss.
That is true.
In the back of the ambulance that should have been used for emergency purposes. So, yes, at one point she did the training to become an EMT, and now she's able to use that in the future. That's great. But, still not a great person. But there's nothing wrong with that. We can follow bad people. There was, 8 seasons of The Sopranos? None of those people were nice people, right?
Exactly.
Thanks so much for the Facebook feedback.
Yeah, thanks so much, Joe, and thanks, Victor, as well.
I think we'll go back to Steve for his final live Steve for episode 4. He's done a binge of all 3 episodes this week. Well done.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. I keep saying here we go every time. Episode 4 of Why the Last Man. Hello, TV podcast industries. This is Steve. Okay, so was that opening scene, I guess, a dream she was having, and now they've ditched the helicopter and they're walking, they're camping, but they got the monkey, so... This conversation, I can see this relationship is going to be interesting. Wow, what happened between Hero and her mother to make her so reluctant to try to get help? Okay, that answers the question. Why didn't I figure out that they had to be in the Pentagon? That's the perfect place for them to be. Contained, everybody lives there. Yeah, okay. So where's Nora if... Oh, there she is. Question answered. I am so looking forward to seeing how this relationship goes through the rest of the season. Yo, it doubles for his name and move along. And that is why you don't shoot into a crowd. You might miss and hit the wrong person. Anyway, that was pretty quick thinking for him, saying he was asking for tea to make them think he's transgender. So pretty cool, little catch there for Yorick. Okay, it's just a small thing here with the whole cat. Was that a stuffed cat or was it a real cat? The closed caption said boy cat. Oh no, I guess there were people staying there. They were just gone. And now they've come home and they're not happy. Okay, this whole, that conversation, the card trick thing, it's beneath me. It's beneath my skill level. It's hilarious. But now he's going to do one. Dang, Roxanne is cold. And also, I think that's Missy Pyle. I like her. But she does have some tenderness, some compassion for the rest of them. That's good. At least for now. There it was, right at the end, guest starring Missy Pyle. All right, guys, can't wait to hear this one. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Steve. And thanks for, during your live Steving, talking over the curse word that was playing in the background, so I don't have to edit that out, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the animatronic cat, which definitely, when watching the episode, freaked me out completely. So not a real cat, not a stuffed cat, a toy cat.
I don't think Nora's too happy that Mackenzie has kind of fallen for it as something to hold on to, her comfort blanket.
Yeah. And that was a pretty shocking moment in the marketplace. We didn't actually mention it at all. The woman who was giving them the entire guide of what the marketplace is about and had sold them the bike, basically, got shot.
Right in the chest as well.
So,
and
saved a grenade.
Yeah, and Agent 355, showing you how it is done by, a precisely aimed shot to the leg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, she was going for the head, and then you see her move her hand, which is good.
Exactly. Thanks so much, Steve, and thanks to everybody else who sent in feedback to us. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with any thoughts you have about any of the episodes of Why the Last Man, or you can join us over in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries if you want to join us there. We have spoiler posts up every week for each of the shows that we're covering.
Yeah, and you can also head on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com to subscribe and share the podcast. We are on any good or evil podcast catcher of your choice. If you want to support us through Patreon or buy me a coffee, you can head on over to patreon.com/tvpodcastindustries or buymeacoffee.com/tvpi. Any which way you wish to support TV Podcast Industries is very, very much appreciated by us three hosts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much to everybody that's been supporting us over there on Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee.
Yes, thank you so much. Don't forget, we're also covering, at this point in time, Marvel's What If over on Disney Plus, where we go into the final 2 episodes to see where that goes.
Yeah.
That's definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, we had a great episode this week where we had Jason Kabasi from Podcastica and the Walking Dead cast joined us for our discussions about last week's episode of Marvel's What If. You can find that on our main feed at tvpodcastindustries.com. We had a bit of a party since the episode was a bit of a party.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
And Derek loved it. It was the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
Well, our podcast was. The episode of What If, not so much.
Well,
Spoiler alert.
yes, spoiler alert indeed. But thanks for joining us, fellow survivors. We'll be back with Why the Last Man, episode 5, Manhunt, next week.
Manhunt with 2 N's, as in
Yes.
Dr. Manhunt.
Exactly. Important stuff. How will it turn out? Join us on TV Podcast Industries next week, fellow survivors. But again, thanks so much for joining us. As always, it is great to hear your feedback and have that discussion with you. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep surviving. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.